My mama used to knock my head between the washer and dryer, and I turned out okay. You turned out okay in spite of, not because of. You are the exception, not the rule, and chances are you did not turn out okay.
Yes. How I treat my mother now is a direct reflection of how she treated me when I needed her when I was a kid. Having said that, how my children treat me.
I'm glad you stopped by, amazing viewer. Let's have a conversation around this. Kindly subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and also like the video for recommendation. There's an ongoing conversation on TikTok of children, adult children now adults, they were children, wanting to unlearn the things that were done to them growing up. So the kind of upbringing that they had some few errors that they would want to correct. So in this video, they will be listing up things that they had been through growing up and things that they wouldn't want to repeat as they raise their children. So if you relate to one of these, list it up, like tell us more about it. And if this wasn't your experience, if it was all rosy in an African black household, let us know. How was it for you? How did your mother navigate raising you? Because for some of us, it was a struggle. So
these are things that I will never do as a parent that my parents did to me. I have been on an inner child healing journey, because in order to manifest better things in your life, you truly have to address the things that have been holding you back, and a lot of times it's childhood trauma. So this is how I reparent myself. Number one, I would never compare my child to another child. I would never be like, oh, look at Susie. Susie's doing so great. Why can't you be more like Susie? Because my child's on their own journey. They may not reach the same milestones at the same time. Their journey is going to look so different, and I'm never going to compare the two. Number two, I am never going to take my child's money. So like if they get money for Christmas or for their birthday, or they have a job and they make money, they will always have like a separate account or a way of tracking their finances. They're going to learn how to spend it, how to save it, and they're going to get to make the decisions with their own money. There are so many more things. I'm going to have to make a part 2, but do you agree? What would you do differently from the way you were raised?
As someone who grew up in an African household, here are 5 things I will not be doing as a mom. 1, no sleepovers, not even at cousins. I do not care how close the cousins are. They can sleep at my house in separate rooms. No sleepovers. That's non-negotiable, period. If you know, you know. Number 2, not a single person in my family, extended family, is allowed to comment on my children's weight. I don't care who you are. None of that. It's good to see you. You gained weight, you lost weight. Nada. Number 3, I will never, ever expect my kids to just do as they're told because it's coming from an adult. If you grew up in an African household, you know it is completely disrespectful to even question something an adult say. Not happening. My kids are allowed to question. Number 4, I will not make my daughters clean up after any uncle that comes to visit or we go visit, because in African culture, if you can go visit someone's house, right? An uncle, an aunt, whoever, and because you're a girl or a woman, you're immediately expected to go clean up after someone, serve someone. Number 5, and this is funny because my husband and I actually did this. No dowries. My kids will not be participating in dowry. Yes, my husband did pay a dowry to marry me, even though he's American, he had to do it. But I don't want my son to do that. I don't even want my daughters to have a dowry. As a Congolese person, I know that's just not happening.
Ooh, this is a good one. I grew up with the experience of getting blamed for certain things that I did not do. When you're raised in an African home, they tend to listen to adults more than they listen to kids. Okay. So for example, if you're a kid and you did something right and you know for a fact you didn't do it, they will be like, well, because Uncle so-so or Uncle this or this, they said this. They will literally automatically blame you as the kid, and they would never ever listen to anything you have to say as a kid. So for me, one thing I would never do is blame my children for something that they did not do. If let's say if a situation actually pops up and then I have to actually fact check it and verify it, what I would do is I would actually fact check it, verify the situation, and try my best to figure out to see who is lying. Okay. And you know what I'm saying? I want to build that trust with my kid so that they don't necessarily have to lie to me. Okay. If anything, right, I'm like, did you do it? Did you really do it? Don't lie to me. If you did it, you did it. If you didn't do it, you didn't do it. All right? I'm not going to get mad, but I need to know the truth. Right. When you do that, it builds transparency with you and the kid, and the kid has no choice but to tell you the truth. What about you?
Same. I don't think I would do that, blaming my kid, because I was accused a lot for things that I never did.
Right.
Or
5 things that I will never do as a parent that my parents did to me, part 3. I will never get mad at my child for correcting me or asking me to apologize. I'm human too. I'm sure I'm going to make lots of mistakes parenting, but I want to set a good example by showing them what taking responsibility for your actions looks like. I'm not sure if my parents were the only ones who did this, but I will never take a gift away from my child that I gave them or someone else gave them. Like, what even is that? Why? I will never stop my child from talking to a therapist or another adult that we both trust. They by no means have to tell me everything. I will never take away money that my child earns. What? If they earned it, it's theirs. I am there for financial advice if they want to talk about how to save, how to invest, what to spend it on, but I will never tell them what to do with it, and I will never take it away from them. Do you agree with these things? I will never compare my child to another child or say things like, why can't you be more like Susie? Susie did this, why can't you? I will never make my child feel guilty for being born. I will never say things like, if you weren't born, I could have done this with my life. Because of you, I had to put my whole life on hold. I'll never say those things. Number 3, I will never make fun of my child for having big dreams. And I'll never ask them how they're going to do it because I don't want to impose my limiting beliefs on them. They don't need to know how they're going to do it. We don't even know what they're capable of yet. My job is to just make sure that they dream big and that they believe in themselves. Lastly, I will never take credit for my child's success or make them thank me for their success because that's their choice. If they want to thank me out of the kindness of their heart, they can, but they are not obligated to. It was my job to raise them. Do you agree with these things? What would you do differently from the way that you were raised?
Agree or disagree? How your kids treat you when they no longer need food and shelter is a direct reflection of how you made them feel when they needed you to survive.
It's very interesting. But yes, how I treat my mother now is a direct reflection of how she treated me when I needed her when I was a kid. Having said that, how my children treat me now is a direct reflection of how I treated them when they were younger and needed me. This is very hard for parents to come to terms with. I think a lot of parents go, that's not true. This is where the disconnect comes. I loved my kids. I gave them everything. You gave them everything that you thought they needed. But did you give them everything that they needed from their perspective? And I know that I didn't do that all the time with my kids. I tried to, at times I really did try to, but I hadn't healed my trauma. And so anytime I was triggered, I wasn't able to be there for my kids. I wasn't able to be present for them. When things were going smoothly, I was good. I was there. I was present. But as soon as something triggered me, poof, I was in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I was in survival mode and I could not be present for my kids. Couldn't. And so as my kids grew up and they started to distance themselves from me, I kind of went, what's going on here? What's happening here? And I looked at myself. And now that I'm looking back on my children's childhood, I'm recognizing some stuff that I really missed the mark on. And it's not up to my children to tell me where I missed the mark. A lot of parents will be like, well, my kids won't tell me what I did wrong. That's not their job. I was supposed to know what to do as a parent. I was supposed to know that stuff. That's why we shouldn't be having kids until we know this stuff and we've healed our trauma. God, I wish I would have knew that.
My mama used to knock my head between the washer and dryer, and I turned out okay. You turned out okay in spite of. Not because of. You are the exception, not the rule. And chances are you did not turn out okay. Chances are you have unchecked trauma that is going to metastasize at some period in your life because an adult put their hands on you as a kid. I couldn't imagine my big grown self squaring up with my daughter and beating the hell out of her because she does something wrong. I wouldn't want my boss to slap me in the face every time I did something wrong, but y'all putting y'all hands on children? When you go to work and you fuck up, does your boss boom, boom, boom? No? Then why do you do it to your kids? And the thing is, y'all say, oh, well, these kids are just too damn soft these days. These kids just don't have it as hard as we did. That's the point. You want your kids to be soft and malleable and have empathy and emotions. Not be hard and rigid because they were getting the shit beat out of them as literal kids. What is wrong with y'all? I could not imagine standing over my child and beating the hell out of her. get some help and get some therapy.
Were your parents assholes to you as a kid, but when you grew up you realized they were nice overall? This is the weirdest type of cognitive dissonance to have with your caregivers. So how is it that some people are like angels in their regular lives while simultaneously being assholes to their children? Everyone has at least two roles, their personal role and their institutional role. So in your personal role, you may allow the dude with only 2 items to go ahead of you in line at the grocery store, right? Meanwhile, in your institutional role, you could be the manager who fires people when they speak up about workplace discrimination. A lot of people are way more aggressive in their institutional role because they think they'll get more respect by the institution if they assert dominance over their subordinates. Personally, I consider parenting to be an institutional role for many people because their values as a parent are based on religion. Christianity, for example. When I was a kid, Christianity told my parents, spare the rod, spoil the child. It wasn't about kids having much autonomy. It was about the parents making sure that their kids saw them as the boss. So in their personal role, when they were around their friends, they were nice, wonderful people. But in their parental role, they wanted to make sure their kids knew, I'm not to be played with. Don't do as I do as I say do. It's the reason you may be the type of person who stops and talks to homeless people in your regular life. But when you're at work, shit, you could arrive with the sheriffs to come evict somebody out of their apartment because your boss told you to make the call. What I'm saying is, you could have so much empathy, it's popping out of your ears, eyes, nose, and throat. But the institution that you're representing may have little to no empathy and expect you to act accordingly. Remember, family is an institution too, so many parents feel pressured into perpetuating generational traditions of treating children as subordinates. And this is why I don't subscribe to any institution that says children are to be seen and not heard, or any institution that will guilt kids for exercising critical thinking about the institution itself. The more we treat kids like what they are, individuals who are gradually gaining more autonomy, the more our institutional role becomes congruent with our personal role. Period.
What was it about this video? Allow me to wind it up right here. Most parents, when their children go no contact, low contact, just cut them off or cut the entire family off because of the kind of trauma they had to go through. And even with therapy, they don't find that inner peace, and they don't recover from the trauma they had gone through to childhood. Their experience has always been that their parents don't take accountability. They don't acknowledge the fact that they hurt them. And I love this. Like when a parent understand that the way I'm treating my child right now is a reflection of how my child will be treating me in the future. I think having that in mind can change the whole perspective and how parents approach parenting, because it's a responsibility. And once you've decided to be a parent, be love unconditionally, like all things that comes with parenting. But most of the time we experienced parents, especially boomers, those who are millennials right now and were raised by boomers, you understand that they also had their unhealed traumas that they brought into marriage. Like for me right now, I'm trying to see that I'm trying to see how we can bring a solution, a permanent solution to this, so that even as people get into marriage and decide to be couples, they can start a self-healing journey before they even get to have children and pass this old trauma thing to them, because it's really a thing. That was it about this video. Kindly subscribe to the channel for more.